YouTube, how the heck you doing? This is Corey with Walter Rums. This is going to be the guide for Gear Raid 2 Stage 19. I'm going to be really honest with you. Gear Raid 2 is probably one of the least important gear raids whenever you are kind of beginning into the game. But once you get to like the really late stage of the game, you definitely want to focus primarily on Gear Raid 2 just because of the overall drops that you get in terms of demon soldiers. But for this purpose, right, you're mainly struggling with like stage 19, which is a pretty difficult stage, all things considered, unless you have access to certain units, which give you the ability to kind of nuke the boss or have the opportunity to do some really funny things in terms of taking out the units that spawn on the map. So what I have here is a pretty standard team. I'm not going ahead and using any of the major bells and whistles that you can use, namely by using Sadie or Carnelian or Earlis or using Praetus, for example, which are relatively hard to get units because it kind of takes a little bit of like summon luck. So what we have here is a pretty standard team, right? So all of these are pretty much epics. Mind you, Volca is a free legendary that you get. And then secondly, Velise can easily be replaced by a lot of units. Specifically, any AoE mage has the ability to suffice. However, I really do think like Velise, Boreas, Comet, Vierna are all units that you would primarily prioritize. If you are unfortunately not able to have one of those AoE units, you can easily use like not Eunomia, Iona, and you'd be just fine. So yeah, basically if you don't have like Velise, you just go over here. Let's go to the cultists and this unit right here. Go and select them, Iona, right? So if you absolutely need to, that's more than fine. So basically what I'm going to do is kind of just highlight this, right? So we have Wrath, who's going to be just the Nightmare Lord epic unit. We don't really use him that much, but we do have the Volca. We have Baron. Baron is a very particularly important unit. He can easily be replaced by like Regulus, for example. We have Idril. Idril can be replaced by a lot of units. The whole point of Idril is just the very beginning spawn. You can use any damage dealer, honestly speaking, and get pretty much the exact same results. We have Olog, who is really important for this stage. We have Bizu, which is just a cultist lord. It's not really too important. We do not even drop a Bizu as far as I'm concerned. We have obviously Velise, which I've mentioned. We have another epic lord here, but we're not using him in the lord capacity. This is going to be Isolde. If you go ahead and see Isolde without the skin, Isolde, right? So pretty simple overall. And then we have Vortex, which is a normal epic healer. And then we have Decimus, which is actually a rare unit, but he's really important for how this entire run functions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and exit out here and begin the auto run and then just explain exactly what is happening here. So a couple of things as to why Gear Raid 2 is a little bit difficult is mainly because this is really all about timings and how you want to basically use the map. So let's go and slow this down here. We have our Idril that's going to take out these units here. And then the next step, speed this up a little bit, is the second Idril takes out this unit, we are going to despawn her. We're going to pull her back and we're going to get some cost regen back. Now, the Golem is going to spawn up, and he is going to do the Golem Shriek. And you should see a little notice that will appear here that kind of explains what happens. So it's basically a one-shot is what it does, unless you have like Sadie, for example, that can prevent death. So he does this move. There we go. And from here, you want to start clicking on Decimus because you're about to go ahead and use them. So you're going to see the Earth Shake happen here. Going to happen one hit. You're going to see a second hit, and the second it flashes. So if you have a epilepsy, just watch out here. It's going to flash right about now. So once you see that flash, you're good to drop your Decimus. So Decimus is going to get hit, and he's going to die. But he has a passive that basically makes him invulnerable to death for a brief moment, where he can still be hit by units, he just won't leave the map. What we do this for is because this second golem is going to hit Decimus, and it's going to take out a chunk of his HP, similar to how it did with the first one. Once Decimus goes down, we can drop our Isolde. He's going to tank both hits here and survive, and this props us up to start dropping all of our other units here. So we're dropping our Vortex, our AoE Mage, which is Velise in this particular example, and then we have Olog, that's the second tank. All that comes down to in this particular moment is really just taking out the units that spawn up. So if you are using like a Vierna, for example, what you really want is for all these units to stack up, and then you're going to use her ultimate. But in this case, since I'm using Velise, I just get to ult for free here and take out all these units that have spawned up. And once these units are down, I instantly want to focus on despawning all of my units. This is really important, because what's going to happen is we're going to see another Golem Shriek happen just about now. Yep. So this would take out all the units on the map. So you've gone through probably the hardest part, which is just the initial damage check. If you can get to 10 out of 27, you probably have enough damage to beat the stage overall. If you're struggling with it, I'd recommend just farming gear rate 3 up until you have good enough gear to get to 10 out of 27, and then you'll be good to go. So in this case, this is a little bit different, right? Because before we were waiting for him to do a hit. But what happens is these two units are already rushing down the map, so you want to just quickly drop both your Decimus and your Baron here, because they're going to basically get knocked down from this earthquake hit. And then these two guards are going to hit them as well, and they're going to lose a chunk of their health in the process by making contact with your units. So let's have these two units die here. Well, Decimus will die. There we go. He gets hit. And Baron has his invulnerability. What will happen is he's going to revive with basically full HP in a brief moment here once he exits his invulnerable stage. So once Decimus dies, right, these two units are going to stack back up. And you see this little aura that they have on them. They have aura, right? This is a perfect opportunity for you to just drop any ground unit, and it's basically going to take both of them out, right? So they're both down now. Secondly, we have another option. I'm going to elect to drop my Idril here, or I can wait a second and then drop my Isolde, drop my Vortex, pull my Baron, which is really important, because if I pull my Baron, these units are going to get that aura on them once again. And so it means whenever I drop my tank, it's going to instantly take these units out, which happens right about here. So both of them are down now. These guards, once they spawn, they're going to target the platform unit. So you want this unit to be a little bit tanky. That's why we're using Vortex, because Vortex is an HP-based healer. So he should tank this pretty easily. And he does. And then we're good to drop our mage once again. You don't want, or our damage dealer once again. You don't necessarily want to drop your damage dealer right when these spawn up and they throw the rocks, because if they take out your damage dealer, it is GG right there on out. So in this moment, we are going to basically deal damage while our Vortex tanks. And we're going to ult, and we should take out all these units on the map. Once again, if you're able to get to the 10 out of 27 mark, you have the damage. It just comes down now to your timings on things. Once these units are down, like these demons are down, we're good to start pulling all of our units, and we do that. So this is the final stage, so let's slow this down. You're going to basically do a complete reset of the very first wave, right? So these units, they're going to spawn up, and he's going to hit one final time. You're good to drop your tank and your Decimus. And they should basically take out both of these units here, because they're going to collide with them. So in a second here, Decimus is going to take this final hit. There we go. Get hit now. Contact is made. Both of them are low HP. Decimus is going to go down. And these units are going to get their aura right back. So wait a second. First one has it, second one has it. You can see it glowing on both of them. And then we're going to drop our Wrath again to just take both hits. What I like to do is I like in this moment to drop Volca just to go ahead and give a little bit more sustain to my Baron, because whenever Volca is on the map, your ally units get a little bit of lifesteal. So what's happening here is this Baron is going to tank just a little bit longer, ideally. I'm going to ult with him. And now we're in a really good position. Because even if our Baron's passive had triggered, we would have been fine overall. Here on out, this is where you drop Decimus. Decimus is going to act as a pseudo tank for you just in case things get a little bit hairy, because the Golem is going to hit the Decimus. And from here, right, you have a couple of options. You can drop your damage dealer, start dealing damage, and you can pull your Baron if you need to, but in this case you don't need to, right? And then Baron is going to get pulled here. And we are going to be prepped now to tank these hits. And because it's Volca who's going to give lifesteal, you can drop your tanks afterwards if the boss does go down. And then from there on out, it's a pretty simple fight where you just one-shot the boss because there's no major damage threats from that point on. See ya.